Over to the Democrats. Max Rose, come on in as well. Stephanie, Laura. Stephanie, I'll start with you. The president today, he had to address this at some point. The White House put him in a position to where he could address it off the top of a essentially foreign policy speech. Do you think that was on purpose for them to say, I'm the president, I'm acting presidential, here I am in the White House, I'm not like that guy?
I think they did the best they could with what was on the schedule for today. They didn't plan the jury verdict, so they worked with what they had. But if I'm the president, if I'm around the president and I'm seeing the numbers that came in off of Trump's fundraising last night, I would be very concerned because Trump is wrong as he can be. Don't agree with anything he said, but he struck a nerve. He struck a chord with, unfortunately, too many people, in my opinion, that are now activated. And the Democrats, we don't have a mouthpiece that is doing that is striking that nerve, that is energizing our voters to that extent. And when you think about all the things that are on the line, it's unreasonable, it's unthinkable that we would not have someone that can get our supporters as passionate.
Is she on to something there? Because this is a White House and a campaign, by all accounts, that would rather have the president out there less, not more.
I think I have a little bit of more patience with the message developing, because what we saw today was Donald Trump spending 99% of his time, 30 minutes plus, talking about himself, his grievances. He wasn't talking about the retail worker that's working 2 jobs and who can't afford health care. He wasn't talking about the hotel worker out in Clark County, Nevada, who can't pay for groceries. He was talking about himself and his grievances. And the more that Trump does that, the less that he is persuasive to those voters who voted for Biden in 2020 that now he has to get back. So I'm giving Biden a break on this one, because there's nothing he can really say to persuade people that people are going to think what they want to think. And Donald Trump was convicted on 34 counts, and that's what he has to contend with.
Max, where are you? Because Laura's basically saying Trump's out there talking about things that voters don't necessarily care about. Stephanie's saying, you know what, we need someone a little bit more passionate.
Gosh, my Republican brothers and sisters are really something else with this one. I cannot imagine one human being who today is saying, man, I wasn't with Donald Trump, but once he got convicted on 34 felony counts, I had to be on his side. That's not the way people react to convicted felons. But of course, the Republican cognitive dissonance here and their level of hypocrisy knows no bounds. What are they going to say in regards to Hunter Biden? If Hunter Biden is convicted, is that political? These are folks that purportedly run on law and order.
On the other side, Max, I hear President Biden absolutely slammed the Department of Justice and his White House during the Her report. I hear Democrats go after the Supreme Court and all the trouble that's there. So, I mean, it is on both sides.
Well, no, it's interesting. You can say that it is on both sides in regards to whether or not charges themselves are justified. In some ways, I can actually understand that argument. But this is taking it one step further, because now they are going to war with the actual verdict decision made by a jury. That is the very bedrock of our legal system. The last time that people claimed that Northern juries were incapable of rendering impartial decisions, that was an argument led by Southern segregationists. If you claim to be law and order, then you have got to get behind the rulings of juries, because that, again, is the foundation of our system.
All right. So the money, which we've talked about, the verdict, caused an overwhelming flow of small donor donations. As of 11 o'clock this morning, Donald Trump said his campaign raised $39 million since the guilty verdict. President Biden's campaign also leveraged the verdict to raise money, but has not yet revealed its fundraising haul. So what exactly can $39 million buy you in politics these days? Well, we looked into it. For example, in 2020, Donald Trump's campaign spent basically that exact number for its fundraising apparatus. It's a large number, no doubt about it, but also a fraction of the roughly $500 million it spent on all forms of media, which made up about 2/3 of its campaign spending. Right now, for example, take a look at this. According to Ad Impact, Democrats have reserved up to $133 million in ad buys this fall for the presidential election. While it is non-existent, at least as it stands at this moment, for Republicans. All right, Mulvaney, $40 million bucks. I sort of laid some of it out there. How significant is this for Republicans, and specifically for Donald Trump?
I'm going to say something politicians aren't supposed to say, which is it doesn't matter how much money it is. To Max's point, are there people out there who didn't want to vote for Donald Trump 2 days ago but are today? Here's what you need to look at. Not the amount of money. Who is it coming from? Who is it coming from? Is it the same people who've already given him before but are giving him more now? That would be really good, by the way, and that gets to your $39 million. There's a lot you can do with that. But if these are new donors, now these are people who have not given to Donald Trump in the past, but have come off the hip now because they see him as a victim, that is a tectonic sort of shift and would undermine what my good friend Max just said. So let's see where the money is coming from more than how much money is out there.
Thank you for watching, and make sure you go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.